Hi everyone. So this is another video where, for my own training purposes and for the edification of those watching, I react to one of my incorrect divinations. So this is one I just did yesterday, uh, the outcome of the Krylov versus Spann UFC fight. So let's take a look and I'll give my thoughts on what happened. Hi, another video here where I'm going to be looking at are these UFC introductions boring? I mean, it's kind of speaks for itself, eh? Krylov versus Spann has to say. I know very little about either fighter, but it's always a problem when I do this. There is a word I should have looked at the records at least. And let it be the one you know. I'll let it be the one you've known, so. You would have your own begin. Let this be one you need. Let it have been true indeed. Can it be that easily? Never. So this is kind of interesting because one of the things around divination is that at least one of the things I find challenging is that you don't always get the answer to the question you're trying to answer. So, and I think particularly where I didn't know so much about these fighters, I had a lot less to hook into when I was doing or when I was allowing the dragon song. It is good advice though, let this be one that you need. This stop looking at questions that you haven't actually engaged with for divination is actually it's a really good advice for me. I'm getting spun on this one. So the reason I was getting span is actually because concomitant with my divination, I'm also uploading some essays that I read aloud, where I speculate on the nature of time and why things like pre-stimulus response work. And the spans of time are a major thing in that. So it was simply a pun of Krylov versus Spann. Mostly, huh. This one is interesting. It is, isn't it? I really know very little about either fighter. It's based purely on the names that this divination is saying this, but that's Jan versus Tvalishvili right after just reading their Wikipedia entries, their respective Wikipedia entries. Close unless something strange is going on, so I'm gonna buy this one. Yeah, something strange was going on, I guess. We shall see. And this is, I guess, something one can do buy a lot of shares. Yeah, this was embarrassing. So the way that the divination came about, it being one that I need, I thought that I really should get one out before the actual event. That seemed like a good idea to have a prediction, because I could have just, I mean, I guess I guess I could have had this graphic and done a bunch of predictions after the fact. So I was in such a hurry to get this uploaded before the actual event happened that I just kind of stopped. I had forgotten to stop recording. Yeah, not my greatest video at all. But there it is. So interestingly, maybe because I've been looking at incorrect predictions, this is something that comes up from time to time, is the divination. When I get the divination wrong, it feels like a much more powerful divination for where I am after the fact. So the two cards that I got before were like the Ace of Wands and the Tower. So there's something about intellectual hubris and thinking that I really understand this stuff, and maybe a reminder that I'm doing this as a student and not as an authority. These are questions I want to engage with and learn about, and I'm doing this in public so that other people can learn, but I'm not doing that from a position of thinking I know everything. And the more that I try to balance that line between seeing myself as someone who knows enough to charge for this service and also has the humility to recognize that there's still a lot that I need to learn. It's an interesting dichotomy that I find that I have to balance there. And I think this particular one, I mean, it just is, again, another example of I probably, if I had done a little preliminary reading, I would have probably gotten a warning sign at the 90% because it was also most of the other bets that I've gotten wrong, I have taken a minority position on the line. So I would have bet against the crowd on most of the ones that I got wrong, which is predictable. The crowd is usually right. It's just there's a lot less um, benefit to being right when when you agree with the crowd. So this was an interesting one. There was this sense of urgency that came through in the divination itself, which I bought into, but maybe that wasn't the best approach that I could have taken. Um, Definitely in the future, when I do these kinds of predictions, I should do some very basic research. It doesn't have to be a lot, and I find also that much of the press around things like mixed martial arts fights does tend to try and sway and bring a particular narrative to the fight, which isn't helpful for guessing probabilities because narratives and probabilities they don't mesh very well. They're not the same things. And what I'm doing with this kind of thing is ultimately looking at probabilities.